traveler. Thank you for being here. This evening, we're going to connect with the energies of the new moon. We're going to pull some runes and some cards and see what messages want to come through for the collective. As always, please use your intuition to determine which messages are for you and take what resonates and just leave the rest for someone else. As usual, we're going to have two piles. Pile 1 will be this dried lavender. And pile 2 will be these dried rose petals. So go ahead and take a deep cleansing breath. And allow your intuition, which usually works in the first few seconds, to guide you to the pile that is meant to find you right now. And I'll see you there. Hello, pile 1. If you chose this dried lavender bud, then this pile is for you. Before we begin pulling cards, I'll start with a small rune reading to help me zero in on the energy for this pile. I'll be pulling a small handful of runes. These are my amethyst rune set, which is really good for opening the third eye and connecting with the crown chakra as well. So I'm really setting the intention to welcome in messages. Okay. So this reading is speaking to a situation that I feel is probably a creative project, something new that's being created. So it could be a project, a business idea, a book, a movie, a band or a song, or some kind of creative expression that is hitting some possible snags in the contractual phase. Maybe there's a lot of negotiation that's happening, or a partner that doesn't quite see eye to eye on the vision with you. And that red tape, or I don't want to call it conflict, it's not quite intense enough to be considered conflict, but it's like a hang up in the planning stage or the legal stage or the deal making stage of this project that is kind of making you feel like it's sucking the joy out for you. This could also be a job that you are doing that started out as a passion project and has become more tedious or more like more work and less play than you expected. And maybe you're starting to feel like it would have been better left as a hobby or just kind of a side project or a fun interest, and not something that you should have made into your main source of income or your main focus financially and work-wise, because the business logistics that have to be involved, it's part of the, it's necessary. It's not something that is being created arbitrarily. This process of negotiating, or maybe it even has to do with the business side of a creative career. So let's say, for example, you started a small business and you've opened a shop and you're making something and you love making that thing and you're really proud of that piece that you make, but you're spending all of your energy doing inventory and writing copy and dealing with the bank and dealing with insurance and paying taxes and coming up with codes and strip boards and things that aren't really the meat of your business as far as the creative side, like why you started doing it. Another example would be, let's say you're an actor or a musician and you are in it for the art. You love doing that work, but you're spending a lot of energy on emails with your manager or auditioning or networking or parts of the job that don't feel as fulfilling for you. And we'll get some cards to kind of go deeper into this scenario. But I can see that you are doing your best to have good boundaries, stand up for yourself, stand up for what you want, and be your own advocate and your own representative. But it's definitely taking its toll on the pleasure that you feel from doing your work. So if this resonates with you at all, it doesn't have to be an art job. It can be any job that you feel maybe you've gotten away from the original spirit of what your position was or why you got into it in the first place, and that you're being diverted, or your attention and your energy is being diverted to side tasks that don't mean as much to you. It could also be a relationship, a disagreement in a relationship, either romantic or roommate or friend or family, where it's just something isn't working out the way that you had hoped. In the practice of it, it doesn't manifest in the way that your expectations had sort of dreamed or fantasized it would. And, expectations can be a real joy killer. So that's just something to think about. Of course, you need to do what's best for you and you need to be happy, but sometimes we look to other people or other scenarios in our lives to create happiness for us, and we don't realize we're actually sabotaging their ability to even hope to do that, because we have expectations that we're harboring that we might not even be totally aware of, and the other person is failing you consistently without even knowing what they're supposed to be doing in your eyes. Obviously, I speak from experience. So it could be that. It doesn't need to be work related, but the overall energy is one of I wouldn't say it's as strong as disillusionment, but it's definitely feeling like something is less fun or less joyful or less fulfilling or less positive than either it used to be or than you expected it to be. So if that resonates with you at all, we're going to move these over to the side here. Try to keep them somewhat in the way they fell. And we'll pull some cards. We'll get some cards to see what more information we can get about this situation. Right away. We've got the Devil card. So that is telling me right off the bat that I was, yep. The tarot always makes me laugh. Yeah, so right away I can see I was probably somewhat on the right track a minute ago when I started speaking about expectations and having an attachment. The Devil card can mean a lot of things, but its primary function is to describe a prison of our own making. So it often can refer to an unhealthy attachment to an idea, a substance, a person, a pattern that we have that isn't serving us, that often we don't realize we are actually in control of, or we have more say in than we think. You can see these prisoners are very loosely chained. Chains around their neck, they could easily remove it, but they're kind of just like in a trance, standing there thinking, well, this is how it is. And they're not thinking about their own autonomy and what they can bring to the table to change their situation. So, kind of a harsh message, sorry. No one likes to hear that. But, you know, sometimes it has to be said. I don't know what your situation is. This might not ring true for you, but at the very least, just give it some thought. That's all I'm asking. Five of Wands here definitely supports what I was saying as well. The energy of the Five of Wands is petty conflict. So you can see these men, boys, are sort of play sword fighting with these sticks. The sticks are all blunt-ended. No one's going to get hurt. It's very gentle what they're doing, but it's just kind of play acting at fighting. So energetically, that can translate to creating drama where it doesn't need to be, getting embroiled in a situation that doesn't have depth but is creating distress or anxiety or unsettled feelings. So gossip is a huge example of that. But also I would say just general angst that doesn't have anywhere to go can easily fall on, or we attach it to something that may or may not truly be the root cause of that feeling, because we prefer to have a reason for our feelings. We don't like to think that we feel the way that we feel just because that's how the chemicals in our brain and body work, and or because of something that happened a long time ago that we're still dealing with, that we might think that we're past, but we haven't truly healed that trauma or done the shadow work to take a look at what our thought processes are in certain situations. So then we just kind of assume, oh, it's because this person is pissing me off. It's because this situation isn't going the way that I want. And, you know, those things are contributing factors, of course. But if you think about how you feel about something that happens to you when you are otherwise feeling good, and how often does something that isn't, you know, life or death, how often does it derail you versus just kind of be a little blip? How much more productive is your thought process when you feel really good and something happens and you're like, you're not going to throw all that away for something small. This is a minor arcana card. This is not a tower. It's not a big life-changing issue at all. this is a minor thing that you are addicted to stressing about, to be frankly honest with you. Oh my gosh, don't hate me. I promise I love you and I want you to succeed. I have a suspicion, but I want to confirm it with another card, please. Will you please clarify the Six of Cups for me? Okay, yeah. So the message here is that the root of this is childhood trauma. Somewhere along the way, you got an idea about yourself as a creative person. Now, it's going to be different for everyone. Some people from a young age were told they're creative, they're artists. Maybe they grew up in a family of artists. Maybe it was important to them for some reason. It was a part of their identity as a young person to do something creative with their life, to be maybe unconventional in the way that they live, or maybe have a job that is really hard to succeed in and that people tell you is a long shot, like some of the jobs I mentioned at the beginning: acting, music, art, design, a creative job. Or some people might have the opposite story. Maybe they were told from a young age that creative jobs were silly, or they weren't realistic, and that they needed to keep that on the side in a hobby, and that work is called work for a reason. You're not supposed to like it. It's just supposed to be how you create wealth and you make your life stable. Maybe you weren't even told these things. Maybe these are just things you believed or internalized from observing others, or the way that you felt about yourself. But there's something to do with creativity. Either you felt like it defined you and it was who you were, or possibly you felt ashamed of it, or it was something that needed to be kept in its place, and over the years you've felt sort of uncomfortable with its role in your life. But either way, your self-worth was in some way tied up in the position that creativity held in your life. If you felt that was who you were and it was your identity, then your self-worth is a bit tied up in that, and you feel an immense amount of pressure and maybe even trapped by the idea that your entire life this is who people thought you were and who you thought you were. And now you're doing it, or trying to do it, and you're not enjoying it. It's not feeling good in the way that you thought. Now, as we discussed, a lot of that could be in your perspective, but it's also possible that this perspective of being trapped and feeling trapped is about your choice to make your creative self your front-facing self. Maybe there's a part of you, well, first of all, we all have a creative side. It doesn't matter what you do for a living. It doesn't matter, what people say about you. We all have a creative side, and we all have an analytical side. And unfortunately, the way our society is structured, we are often forced to put just one piece of ourselves to the forefront and identify by that half of ourselves. And the other half kind of gets pushed down or gets forgotten, but either you have done that, you've done that one way or the other perhaps, or you're feeling some sort of an imbalance between your creative and your more analytical side. Like I said, maybe your creative side is getting all of your time and energy, and you're craving a little bit more organization, a little more stability. Maybe you're craving something you can rely on, something that makes you feel satisfied and like you can kick back and enjoy things and not be always fighting. You know, there's this sense of constantly fighting a battle, and maybe it's that battle is like hustling. If you have a creative job and you work for yourself, or you're a gig worker or something, then you are out there on the front lines fighting and battling for your livelihood every single day. And that can be extremely exhausting. It can feel like a trap. And then when you think about doing something else, you start to feel judgment either from others or from yourself. And you start to feel like you're not allowed to do something else because that means you gave up. So that could be one way of looking at this. The other way could be that, the other direction. You're in a very analytical position because that was what you were taught or believed was the most valuable, sensible, intelligent way to live your life. And I'm not saying that that's wrong in any way. There's nothing at all wrong with taking that path, but there's a part of you that feels like you're betraying something about your core self. You are stuck in an uncomfortable position, and there's a part of you that isn't being honored. And that is that creative spark. And you just kind of long for that outlet. It feels like something's missing. It feels like you are craving a new perspective. You're craving something fresh in your life. Yeah. So let's pull a couple more cards just to get some advice about this. Please. Okay. Okay, very interesting. I always talk about balance in my readings. I think it's the most important thing that we can focus on in our lives, and here it comes out again. So the Page of Swords has to do with communicating clearly, having logic, using your mind, using your brain, and using your intelligence. And the star is your dreams, your wishes, your fantasies, the less analytical side that kind of lets itself daydream. And the answer is you need to have both, and you can even use them to work together to accomplish things. In fact, that's the best way to accomplish things. So if you're looking for a way to bring yourself back into balance, look at these two cards and think about which one you're missing more of. Which one are you looking at and feeling like, ooh, that looks like freedom. That looks invigorating. That looks like I could breathe. They're both very inspirational cards. The Page of Swords is, standing in this open field with this beautiful clear sky. There's a wind blowing, and he's just confidently out there. And the star is, she's obviously very comfortable where she is. She's nude. She's in a field. She's pouring water. She's under the stars. She's surrounded by nature. She's in touch with her feelings. She's got one foot in the water and one foot on the land. And she, has the heavens above her. So let your intuition tell you what you're missing and honor that part of yourself. If it's the Page of Swords energy, then I would recommend doing some writing, some journaling, maybe even make some flow sheets. I know this sounds crazy, but if you're in a creative field and you feel disorganized or you feel like your life is out of your control, one of the best ways that you can bring in that analytical, logical side of yourself is to make lists and spreadsheets for anything. It could be for budgeting, it could be for your next 5-year plan, a project, even a small project. It doesn't have to be complicated or overwhelming. You can use Google Docs. It doesn't need to be Excel, It can be pen and paper if that feels good to you. But definitely recommend writing down a plan of some kind, whatever form that takes for you. It could be free journaling, could be automatic writing, whatever fits into whatever makes you feel comforted. It shouldn't be something that feels like a stressful assignment for you. If you're feeling like you're missing the star energy, then I would definitely suggest working with the moon phases. Look into the moon phases. And right now we're in a new moon, which is a really, really good time to start something new. So I would recommend, if you're feeling like you want to harness a little bit more of the star energy, like you already know what your wishes are. You already know what your fantasies are and your hopes and dreams. Your soul knows, the universe knows. So you don't need, you should always be fantasizing about that stuff. That's not something you need to set, aside specific time to do. That should just be kind of free flowing in your life. But what you can do that's a solid piece of advice would be to get a little bit more familiar with the moon phases and which phases are good for what type of energy and what type of manifestation, and look into it's very simple. It won't take long. It's not an intense course of study. There is a lot of information out there that you could get really deep into, but I'm talking about just getting a working knowledge of how the moon phases affect the energy of, everything: animal behavior, the weather, the women's biology, but also, we are animals too. We're mostly made of water, and we are mammals. We live on this earth, and we have instinctual understandings. And the moon phases do affect us. The heavens and the celestial happenings affect us. So, you can go super deep into astrology if you wanted. If you felt called to do that, the star would definitely be a really good energy to suggest that. But if you're not wanting a whole new subject to learn, a new assignment, I would just suggest doing some very light research about the moon phases and just charge yourself with starting to notice how things feel different in the different phases. It's going to be subtle. You can look around for the ways that the animals in your area change behavior. You can even just notice the way that things look different at night with the different levels of moonlight that you get. Would be a really great project to do. Like if you like to draw or you're into art, to do take something that's outside, a bush or a tree or a piece of lawn furniture or a yard decoration or anything really, your mailbox, and do a drawing of it in each moon phase. The new moon, and then you have the waxing moon phases first quarter, and it gets up into the full moon, and then it starts to wane, and you will see such amazing transformation. And just notice how it makes you feel, how each phase makes you feel. And then you can start to use that knowledge of how each phase works for life on Earth as a whole, but then also for you as an individual, and use it in your work. Use it to your advantage. If you want to ramp something up, do it during the waxing moon. If you want to really have an energetic, spotlight, an energetic punch, then the full moon is what you want. If it's, shadow work, introspection, the new moon or the dark moon is the perfect time to do that. If you want to release something, the waning moon is perfect for that. So, yeah, that's my advice. I would like to feel called to pull an oracle card for you as well. Pile 1. So let me get a final message for pile 1. The opossum. So the opossum is actually a great card for this reading because it has to do with reactions and your reactionary responses. So the opossum, obviously we all know, the opossum plays dead when it's stressed. And sometimes that's, it saves its life. This is an instinctual, ingrained thing that it doesn't have a lot of control over, but is there to save its life in a life-threatening situation. But we all know that they do it, whether they're in danger or not. Anything that kind of startles them or they're not familiar with, that becomes the response. So it's very much like a freeze response. And there are times when that is really, really helpful. And there are times when that ends up getting in its own way. If someone's trying to help, if it's stuck in something, or if it's out in the cold, or if it's hungry and someone's trying to help, or there's an opportunity for evolution, for understanding something different, understanding something new. Obviously not in the life of the opossum, but we're talking about, how to use, we're talking about the energy of that in a human experience. So there may be times when there's an opportunity for growth or an opportunity for something different that feels unfamiliar, and it's good to be cautious, but don't play dead. Don't let it pass you by. Don't freeze up. Examine why you feel trapped in your responses and why you feel like there's only one path for you. And that is the pervading sort of energy of this reading, is feeling like there is no choice and there's no other path, but you're ignoring a whole half of who you are. So yeah, not sure if that's something that's even on your radar. If it is or if it isn't, either way, I'm sending so much love and support, and just, I've got your back. And I know how hard it is to break out of a pattern. It's, they're there for a reason. That, like the opossum reminds us, your patterns are there to protect you. You put them there when you really needed them, probably as a child, when you didn't have a lot of other ways to protect yourself. So give yourself grace and realize that, having the pattern there's nothing wrong with having the pattern. Like I said, it's there for a good reason. But if you can examine it and make a determination whether it serves you or not, and then try to see, what you'd like to do to be different. Because that's your right. That is your right as a human being living a life here in the physical. You get to choose what you experience. You don't have to spend your whole life on one path if it's feeling like it's not resonating with you anymore. You get to feel this way through your own creation. That's what's so satisfying about it. That's why we're here. We're here to expand, to experience things, to create. We're here to create. So don't play dead. Yeah. Well, I hope this was helpful. And please feel free to tell me in the comments if you're comfortable how this resonated for you. I'd love to hear. And I'll be sending you my energetic support. And I'll see you in my next reading. Bye-bye. Hello, Pile 2. You chose the Dryad Rose Petals. Then this reading is for you. You may hear my cat purring. He's jumped up on my lap for this pile. So, pile 2 is extra blessed today. He's always nearby and involved when I'm doing readings. But he's especially involved right now for this pile. So perhaps this pile is needing some extra support. Maybe someone in this pile might even be grieving. Cats are very sensitive, especially when it comes to traveling between realms and between worlds, and they're very comfortable and connected with the world of the dead. So that could be one of the reasons that he's here right now. But anyway, pile 2, we'll start with pulling some runes from my amethyst rune set to see what the general energy is for this reading. Okay. He's just got right up to the microphone now, so he's giving you some purrs. So from this, I can clearly see that you have a lot going on. I can also see that you are very in your masculine energy right now, so that's the energy of doing, of getting things done, of action, of, routine. I see that the days are kind of blending together, and this is all, the feeling is of obligation. Like there's a lot that needs to be done. There are seeds that need to be sown. There are chores. There are things that are, bills that are due. And I can see that the focus is on that routine, but there are some questions being asked by, maybe not your conscious mind, or maybe it is your conscious mind, but it could also just be by, your soul, your heart, that there's a lack of self-care, certainly. We have Lagus in reverse here, but also maybe a lack of connection to your heart. It's a very head and solar plexus and root chakra heavy reading. So I can see from Ansu's here on its sort of face down that there's definitely concern, there's fear, there's worries, I guess, not fear, but worries about how things are going to work out, and kind of ignoring your intuition, ignoring the water side of you, the part of you that trusts that you got this, the part of you that knows that you're a divine being. This is a very 3D, here and now, feet on the ground, into the earth sort of energy. And I can see that the spiritual side might be a little blocked right now, but there's a desire to connect with it. Maybe there's even a feeling of, of imbalance or something being missing. It's funny, that's the theme of both readings, is imbalance or, missing something from your life, but they are very different in energy. There's a different feeling here. This is like all work and no play. And or not even necessarily play, but all work and no nourishment, all toil and no ease, all toil and no harvest. But the seeds are being consistently planted. Let's get some cards to find out some more information about this. Okay, we are getting some of the same cards from the last pile, so I'm guessing some of you are probably watching both, which is great. I know it's a little hard to see, so I'll tell you what these cards are. We have the Three of Cups, the Six of Wands, and the Page of Swords. So the Three of Cups and the Six of Wands are both celebratory cards. They are about having fun, enjoying the victory. It's literally what I just said was missing. It's the harvest, it's the fun, it's the reward after the hard work. And the Page of Swords is a very logical, very fast-moving, intense sort of intellectual energy. So I'm going to get some more cards, but I'm wondering if possibly the celebrations and the victories are happening and you're not partaking in them for some reason. Maybe, I don't know why I'm getting this message, but it's like you're saying no to those invitations, or you're not taking part in the celebration aspect of your work. Because for whatever reason, maybe you feel like there's no time, maybe you feel like you haven't earned it, maybe you're working towards something really specific and you don't want to rest until you're there. But this reading is clearly telling me that the rewards and the fun that you're seeking aren't missing. You're just not showing up for them, or you're not allowing them to be part of your experience right now. And, I'm sure you have a good reason, or maybe it's not, it's happening subconsciously, but it's just important to be aware that it's not that they're not out there. It's that you're too logical to let yourself enjoy. Or that's just sort of the energy that you're in right now. You've got that sort of vibe of, nah, I'm just gonna stay in and keep working. No, I'm not gonna take that time off. I'm not gonna go to that party. I'm not gonna go to that thing because I need to get this done, or that would take my focus away from this thing that I am really working on accomplishing. And you know what? That's totally valid. It's just, it might be affecting you more than you realize. You might think that you don't care, or that it's not bothering you, or maybe you even think you prefer it. Maybe you're like, oh my gosh, I don't feel like celebrating anything right now. Things are too heavy right now to celebrate. But it's kind of like a chicken or the egg thing. It's like, do you celebrate because you're already happy, or do you celebrate something because that's where the joy in life is? Those are the flowers, along the path. And denying yourself those experiences doesn't get you a prize at the end. So the Page of Pentacles flew out of the deck just now. Very grounded, practical energy. Let's see what else. Seven of Wands, yeah. And the Ace of Pentacles with a hidden card underneath. Death. Yeah. So the Seven of Wands is a card about stress. It's about playing whack-a-mole with things that keep popping up and feeling like you never have enough resources to really like get ahead or get a handle on things, which definitely resonates with the runes we pulled at the beginning and that energy I was tapping into. And the Ace of Pentacles is, you know, followed along with the Death card hidden underneath it. And I really think it's just as simple as, you know, all work and no play make Jack a dull boy. You can run yourself into the ground focusing on the earthly sort of goals that you might have, such as most, you know, financial goals or physical goals of things that you want to be able to afford or to build or to create. But it's basically as simple as you need to stop and smell the flowers a little bit more, because you are in a cycle of burnout. The Death card has to do with transformation, you know, things that burn down and are reborn out of it. So it doesn't mean literal death. It has nothing to do with physical death, but it has to do with the many deaths that you go through as you evolve. And, you know, we have the choice. We have the choice to repeat the same lessons over and over and be in a little bit of a pattern where we, you know, we work really hard, we deny ourselves things, we say that, you know, we don't need rest, we don't need self-care, we don't need a break, and then you get to a point of burnout. And what does burnout create? It creates a much longer break that you know, comes at the worst time. Oftentimes you get physically sick, and you know, your body forces you to slow down and take a break, and it's not going to be the most convenient timing, and it's going to be longer than you would have liked, and it's not going to be enjoyable because it's going to be healing and recovering, as opposed to this Three of Cups energy of celebration and the Six of Wands energy of celebrating a victory. So you're really being guided to take a look at what you've already accomplished and what you accomplish on a regular basis, and you're being asked to simply be proud of yourself and to celebrate it, even in a small way. You know, take a night off, take yourself out for a meal, spend one weekend day, you know, on the couch, have a duvet day. Just give yourself that luxurious feeling, because the Pentacle energy and the Earth energy can be also very luxurious. It can feel very it's about creature comforts, you know, it's about the physical pleasures of being alive on planet Earth. So it's good food, it's being cozy, it's enjoying, you know, the tactile sort of pleasures of being alive. So you're really being encouraged to take a look at that. With pile 1, I was guided to pull an oracle card as well, so I will do the same for pile 2. And please have some final messages for pile 2. I need to hear. Okay, got 2. Wow, okay. So you got, let me see if I can, it's a little, the sun went down as I was reading, so it's a little hard to see these cards, but I will try and bring them to you. So the first card you got is Reflect. And the second card, Get Wild. So So definitely reinforces the message. Take a look at where you are being too uptight and keeping yourself on too tight of a leash, and let yourself go a little bit. Don't go crazy, but you don't have to lose what you've built or the progress you've made, but you can and should allow yourself some grace, some space. Allow yourself the space to enjoy the fruits of the hard work that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, not just, at the end when you reach your goal or when the work is done, because honestly, is it ever really done? Or are you just going to keep working yourself into the ground until, suddenly you look back and you're like, where did those years go? So definitely give yourself some space to just be, to just exist, to be, to be an animal, and take care of your creature comforts. You deserve it, whether you feel that you do or not, you do. We all deserve it because we are animals. That's one of the primary objectives of being alive on this earth, is to be comfortable, to be well fed, to be warm, to be safe, to be clothed, to be, comfortable. So the advice is to get in touch with that. I love you, but you're being crazy. So pile 2, I hope that this was helpful in some way and, made you think a little bit and gave you a jumping off point. And I wish you all the best. I hope you pamper yourself, especially during this new moon. It's a really good time to go inward, a really good time to have some quiet time to yourself or some time at home. And, just take care of yourself. Because there's always going to be work to be done. It's not going anywhere, don't worry. If you take a break, it'll still be there when you get back. So thank you for joining me, and as always, if you're comfortable, in the comments, I would love to hear how this resonates for you. And I'll see you in my next reading.